from the News Channel 5 network. This is Score Connect.
Hi there and welcome to Score Connect. I'm your host, Anavia McLeod, and we are excited to be sharing more Nashville leader stories, resources, and experiences here with you today. As a reminder, Score Connect is sponsored by SCORE, which is a national organization of volunteer mentors here to help you start or grow your business. Today's conversation is all about home ownership as an entrepreneur. And I know that feels like a big, scary topic, so we have brought in Jeremy Williams, who is the branch manager and senior loan officer for the Williams Group at Fairway Home Mortgage.
You got it.
I got it. I did it. Jeremy, thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, well, I know we have so much to talk about, especially because buying a home in and of itself is a really big deal, let alone if you also own a business and you're trying to make all of those things work together. Yeah. So how did you get into mortgage lending?
Yeah, so I mean, my journey started over 23 years ago. Coming out of college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. That time in my life, I was bouncing around and trying some different things, but I was working for a gentleman building some custom homes, and so I got a taste for the real estate side of things, but I realized that really wasn't where my talents was in the construction management side of things. And so I happened to be dating a gal at the time who had a really good friend whose significant other owned a mortgage company.
Yeah.
And so I got introduced to the mortgage side of the business back then, and I was just a sponge to it. I mean, I just absorbed it like crazy and found my calling. I really enjoyed that side of things.
That's amazing, and I'm glad that people like you exist to do those things. Yeah. Anytime I start to look at that paperwork, I'm like, boy, I hope there's someone who can help me get through this.
With a personality, too.
With a personality, too, because
right.
it could be tedious.
Yeah.
It could be a little tedious. So since then, in the past many decades, you have become one of the top mortgage lenders in the country. You have an award-winning team here in the Franklin area. So tell me, how often are you working with business owners as clients?
Quite often, to be honest. I mean, one of the things that has really helped us carve out a specific niche has been with entrepreneurs and self-employed individuals. I will tell you that, a typical experience at, a big bank or a credit union type thing, a lot of times it's like deer in the headlights when they're looking at self-employed individuals, especially when they're going through the normal checklist of reviewing tax returns and seeing negative numbers or seeing things that don't really jive. We've kind of adopted or taken under our wing those entrepreneurs and self-employed individuals to create strategy for them so that they can actually accomplish home ownership.
Yeah, because it is different applying for a home loan if you are an employee somewhere versus self-employed or an entrepreneur. How is it different when you're a business owner?
Yeah, so when you are on the business ownership side of things and you're either a sole proprietor, Schedule C, you've formed an S corp, you're getting a K1, you've got all these different
so many ways
parts.
to own a business.
Lots of different
other
things.
Show. Yeah.
And so, you really need a strong team around you that really understands what they're looking at. And so from the home lending standpoint, that's one of the things that we do. And, it completely changes everything because it's not just a typical, hey, I get a paycheck. Hey, employer, you're taking taxes out of my paycheck. And what I take home is my net.
Right.
And very simplified. But when you've got your own write-offs and you've got things that you're responsible for as a business, and it's rear view mirror looking, because that's how it works, is we're looking in reverse at what you did over the last year or 2 years, and that's how we're calculating income. It's a whole nother ballgame.
Right. So what are the benefits? I'm a business owner. I have lots of business owner friends. Yep. Some of them own homes, some of them don't. What are the benefits of becoming a homeowner as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to doing that. One, I think, is just control over the property, right? When you're a renter, you don't have the ability to, paint the house a different color or the room a different color or, punch a hole in the wall or decide you're going to park maybe company vehicles, at certain places. There might be restrictions on that. When you own the home, you have a lot of that control yourself. So that's one. Two, there are a lot of tax deductions that are available as an entrepreneur or self-employed individual to take advantage of, and that's kind of the exciting part. Is now these write-offs exist, and now you can pay less in taxes, and everybody likes to do that. So that's an exciting thing.
One of my favorite things,
you know,
is to pay less in taxes.
Yeah, for sure. And then alongside that, you know, you've stepped into the equity part of the game, and that's, you know, now you've got something you're making payments towards every month that you own that is creating additional equity in that property or appreciation as it grows in value, and that's going to, you know, pay huge dividends in the future.
Yeah, and so, you know, when we're thinking about applying for, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm thinking about applying for a mortgage, I'm thinking about buying a home, what are some of those mistakes that people make? Because you're talking about some things that seem, I don't know, common knowledge, right? But like, oh yeah, when you own a business, we're looking in the rear and so the future, and there are actually some pitfalls in there, right? Yeah. Some technicalities that can either get you or lose you a home.
No doubt, and I'm glad you brought that up. So I think that one of the things that you really need to be mindful of is what kind of write-offs you are taking. If we're going the traditional route of reviewing tax returns, and when I say traditional, that's what a self-employed individual, we're usually looking at 2 years worth of tax returns for that person and averaging the income over those 2 years. Well, if you are a newer entrepreneur, you're kind of getting up and running, you know, you might have an accountant or a CPA that's really motivated to write as much off as possible so you can pay less in taxes, which, hey, is a great thing. However, when we talk about an adjusted gross income, that is, what is my income after I have written all my stuff off?
Yeah.
That's the number that most people are going to jump down to qualify you for a home loan. And it might not be a very big number, and you might not be able to then get the home. But it doesn't mean that you're not making the money. So then there are some alternative things that we can look at to help provide a solution for that.
Yeah, and this is something that we were talking about as we were, you know, pre-interviewing for the show. This is what happened to me last year.
Exactly.
So this just happened to me, where last year we were aggressive about some of the write-offs and the opportunities for taxes, and I had you look over my numbers to pre-qualify, and you were like, not this year, like not gonna happen. But now looking at, you know, again, looking at my books this year, it's one of the best years I've ever had as a business owner, but I have to wait for the rear view mirror.
Yeah, and I think to your point, when we discussed and reviewed your stuff, we were like, hey, here's option A, traditional. It's not gonna work right now. We do have alternative option B, which could work, and that's reviewing, you know, other different ways of viewing it, like business bank statements or personal bank statements, or, you know, 1099s, or different ways of being able to analyze the income. There are all those alternatives that are out there if somebody is trying to expedite the process.
And this is something, just before we go to break, this is something when you're talking about alternative options that not all mortgage companies are willing to do.
That's correct.
So when we're saying, hey, your company really works with business owners, you want to look for a mortgage company that has that experience with business owners because of some of these alternatives. Can you say those again? Yeah,
so like if you're looking at being able to qualify off of bank statements, so like, you know, the deposits that are coming in, right? That's one way to analyze the income. Another could be if you're receiving 1099s, if you're an independent contractor and you're getting 1099s from different, you know, people that you represent for your business, that's another way to be able to analyze it.
Because that's more up-to-date information than what did I file on my taxes last year and the year previous.
That's right, and we can look at that over 12 months or 24 months to create the average for the income. So that can be very indicative of what a business is actually earning versus the traditional review of tax returns.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then it also gives them the opportunity when we're thinking about, again, like contracted revenue. I own a marketing agency, so like we're signing contracts that are usually retainers. So we can kind of look ahead and project, as opposed to going, well, last year we took a lot of tax breaks.
That's right. Yeah, let me give you one real easy example. So let's say we're talking in June of 2026 next year. Well, we're looking at 24 and 25 tax returns at that point in time. We're already halfway through 26, and we're not really even looking at 26 at all. We're going to the previous 2 years. So we're going back quite a bit through the traditional outlet. And so there's a lot of prepping and planning that needs to go into setting somebody up for success.
Yeah, well, and that also makes a huge difference when you're starting a business, because I remember when I started my business, I went from unemployment to more money than I had ever made in a single year in the first 9 months of my business, and it was like the jump was staggering. So if you're going that far behind, it would be like, no, it's a big change. I want to talk to you about some of the aspects that, or excuse me, some of the pieces or parts that people need to apply for mortgages. We're going going to talk about that right when we get back from the break. Join us here in a few moments. Welcome back to Score Connect. I'm your host, Anna McLeod, and we are continuing our conversation with Jeremy Williams. Jeremy, we're talking all things homeownership.
Yep.
Which is a big topic.
It's a big one.
It's a big one, whether you are a business owner or you're not a business owner. But today we're specifically trying to help our SCORE clients, entrepreneurs, people who are self-employed, be as best prepared as they can to buy a home, potentially benefit not only themselves but their business. So before the break, we were kind of talking about high-level benefits. I'd love to get into some of the execution around, like, what do we actually need to do to make this happen? And I know you are one of the people on the team of home ownership, right? So we know that we need to have a good lender.
Yep.
Who else do we need to tag into this process?
Yeah, for sure. So, when we're handling the lending for somebody, it's not the sexy part of the equation.
Sure.
It's the means to the end, right? The exciting and fun part is that real estate agent. So having a rock star realtor that's in the picture that really knows the area that you want to purchase is definitely, the second individual that you need on the team.
Okay.
Obviously, having a great CPA involved or somebody that prepares your taxes is really, really important when you're self-employed, because there's some things that you may need from your CPA or preparer that we need, and so it's just good to make sure you've got somebody who's active and attentive that can help you with those things. A great home inspector to preview the property and make sure the property's in great shape. A handyman on the side as needed if things need to be repaired and replaced. A great title company, of course, that's going to be intermediary or third party to the transaction. That really kind of rounds out the team of individuals, I think, that you really need to make it successful.
And obviously, if you know people like this, if you're networking with people that do these things, you can pull them in.
Yeah.
But a lot of lenders or real estate agents kind of bring these people to the table as well, right?
Sure.
Because I know you're doing a lot of networking. That's how we met. So you might be able to, to get referrals and make sure that you're tagging people in just based on relationships that already exist as well.
For sure. And for us, we're always vetting and eyeing out the best of the best, because that's who we want to be surrounded with, because we want that to be an amazing reflection on us of that recommendation and vice versa. So we just want to make it really the most rewarding experience it can be when you're buying a home, which can be a very stressful thing. Yeah.
And so speaking of stress while you're buying a home, it's not the fastest process that's ever been.
Sure.
And so if I'm thinking about buying a home, when do I start looking into this? When am I meeting these people? When am I having these conversations? Because you can close in 30 days. I've seen the billboards, right? Like, we could get you closed
Press
right
button,
away.
Get mortgage,
get mortgage. How long is this realistically taking?
I mean, look, we do live in a microwave society, right? I mean, we want things immediately. So it's one of those things that it's not walking into the store and buying a widget off the shelf and walking out with it. The mortgage process can take a little bit of time. Typically, the escrow process of when you go under contract to buy a house is usually around 30 days.
Right.
So the prepping and planning part, though, can start months in advance of that. Yeah. And so if people are entrepreneurs, they need to be starting that process sooner rather than later for us to be able to provide that evaluation to see if we have all our ducks in a row to be able to get started. And so, usually if they're inside of a 4-month window, that's a great time to start to make sure that the financing's there, the pre-approval's in place, and then they can connect with that realtor and start doing the home search and trying to find the property.
Yeah. We basically just sit in bed at night on Zillow and just look at all of the houses. That's how you do it, right? You just start with the...
Well, but you went back to what I was talking about, and that's the fun part. Like
that is the fun part.
The house is what you're falling in love with, and the dreaming that begins with that. Nobody's like, gosh, scrolling that website of rates and APRs.
Can't wait to start with my P&L statement.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of which, right, so we've got, let's say, 4 months or so that we know we have to get, like you said, get our ducks in a row, get the paperwork in, get pre-approval, start to look for the house, escrow, all those things. what are all of those things? When I call you, when I pick a lender and say, hey, I want to start working, what are they going to ask me for?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a long list.
It can be. And I think when we are interviewing and having that conversation, we're curating that list specifically to the individual.
Okay.
It's not a one size fits all. It's really important to understand. I think the media, the commercials, things like that, it'll make it seem like it's a one size fits all, and it's not. It's very custom to everybody's situation. So we may be asking for 2 years worth of tax returns. If they've been in business a long time, we may be only asking for 1 year of tax returns, which is an advantage. Last 2 months worth of asset statements, bank statements, money market accounts, brokerage accounts, any investments or business bank statements that they may have, getting those 2 full months of statements to us for review. And if they're paying themselves a W-2, then we're looking at their pay stubs for the last 30 days. We're looking at their W-2s for the last 2 years. Business tax returns can be in there as well. So that kind of is the list in general, and then we would customize it and make it more specific if they have other things going on.
And how much or how often do the applicants need to also have similar paperwork for spouses?
When you say similar as far as what they need, are you meaning like that individual also self-employed, or just like?
I mean, either way. Yeah. The way that I think about it, and again, when I went through the pre-qualification process with you last year, right? It's, it is a process to get some of that paperwork for myself as a business owner, but then also it's like, but I'm applying for a home loan with my husband, and so he is employed, right? He gets a W-2, but I still had to go get that. So like, there's some extra time and some extra things that you have to go through when you're not dual application, co-signing is the very professional word I was looking for.
It all depends on what everybody's doing for work, right? What are you doing for work? What are you doing for employment? And then really, we need your last 30 days of pay stubs. We need your W-2s for the last 2 years. If you have joint bank statements, then that's easy. You're bringing those to the table. If you have individual accounts, you're providing those as well. And then we kind of bring it all together behind the scenes, and that's how the pre-approval comes together.
Yeah. And so are you often seeing people come to the table saying, this is the house we've already found on Zillow that we'd like to qualify for, can we get it? Or are you more often saying, hey, based on the numbers, this is the amount that you are pre-qualified for? Like, what's the best path to do that? Because you can get your hopes up about something and maybe not qualify.
Yeah. I mean, the best way to handle that is obviously having all of your ducks in a row and getting your financing squared away and your purchasing power squared away up front before you really dig in and start dreaming and falling in love with the home. We, as a branch and as a team, we see both sides. So we get those people that have already come to us and identified the home, and then we're putting a square peg into a round hole. Right. Or we get the ones that are like, hey, I'm going to buy in maybe in the next 6 months, and I just want to know what I'm approved for. Right. And then we're working with those people and getting them set up.
And it's a little easier. So that also leads to one of the things that we've talked about before, which is people who self-decline, like they self-limit. Yeah. So, how often is that happening where people are kind of going, gosh, this seems like a really hard process. I probably won't get approved, so I just won't do it. Right. I mean, what do you share with those people?
Yeah, I think that is such a great question, and it doesn't matter the business. This isn't just mortgage specific. It's with anything. Like, we don't know what we don't know. It is so important to just be in a position that you don't disqualify yourself from the process, because when you're surrounding yourself with people that are experts in what they do, and us on the lending side, like, we can identify pretty quickly, like, no, you actually can buy a home. You didn't think you could, but you actually can. The flip side is we may agree with you and look at that and say, yeah, you're not ready right now, but here's the plan for what it looks like for the future. So if it's not now, it can be later. It's like if, not if, but when, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, and similar to, we've had people on the show that have talked about selling the business, getting a valuation, and that kind of thing, that have said, you need to, if you're thinking about selling your business in 5 years, you need to start working with somebody like a broker or someone who can help you, because you can help prepare. If I've limited and said, well, no, I can't do this, I'm also not getting any help. Yeah. So I don't know if I can qualify, and I also really don't know what to do to change what I'm working on or my tax, write-offs and things to make sure that I can qualify, right?
Yep. Yeah, people just shouldn't shy away from the process, because, truth be told, like, we don't get compensated unless we can help our clients get into the home that they want. Close the loan that they need to buy the home that they want. So we're in it with them. We were working for them in their corner. So they shouldn't be afraid to share this or that with us, or wondering that like fear of like, oh, there's some sort of judgment zone or something like that. No, I mean, we've seen it all. But the goal is, because we work for them, we're trying to get them into the best rate and payment we can and give them as many options as we can.
Yeah, which I really appreciate, especially the idea that if you're working with, you're looking for a lender, you're looking for this team, this real estate team, that you're finding people who are used to working with or experienced in working with business owners so that they can help counsel you through. And not just be like, well, you can't, sorry, we can't work with you. You want it to be somebody who can help you get there even if you're not quite ready. Yeah.
You got it.
I want to make sure that our viewers can learn more about you and about Fairway. Please make sure to join us here in just a few minutes after the break. Welcome back to Score Connect. I'm your host, Anavia McLeod, and we are finishing our conversation here today. Jeremy, thank you for sharing everything that we need to know about owning a home as a business owner.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, I know that you've got a wealth of additional resources and information. Where can our viewers find out more?
Yeah, so if they want to look us up and follow us on socials, Instagram's probably best. That's at Williams Group Mortgage. We're on Facebook, website. We're around town, so we can be found pretty easily.
Yeah, and your social media is actually enjoyable to follow as a mortgage lender. That's not always the case, but you have really, really great content. So thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that. Absolutely. Thank you for being here with us today. As a reminder, if you're thinking about starting or you're growing your business, make sure to check us out at nashville.score.org to get connected with one of our amazing mentors. We're also releasing new podcasts every month, so search for Score Connect wherever you listen to podcasts. And finally, for the most up-to-date information about events, resources, more conversations with Nashville leaders, and so on, make sure to follow us on social media at Score Nashville. We'll see you next time, and we hope you have a great day.